All right, guys, so good evening. We're going to share a mic. We don't normally do that. If that image scares you, we understand. And that's okay. So we'll give you the obligatory before we get started. Once you see this, you cannot unsee it. We will not be offended if you feel like you need to step out. Don't let that scare you. We just do that every time we get started. So tonight we're going to talk about the Great Gaslight, things that you need to know. We're going to show you some stories that you may not be familiar with, but after tonight you will be able to use as a tool to help to make sure other people don't get gaslit. So who are these folks? Typical question that we get.
So RC and I met 11 years ago. I was doing competitive intelligence and so was he. And we realized that, you know, as we're doing the competitive intelligence and we're doing the market research, that we needed to build a technology to help us do that. And as this technology was doing the market research, we were like, warning, warning, Will Robinson. We were finding things that were like, oh my God, like we need to talk to our brothers and sisters about what's really happening out there. And that's the reason why we started the 2 publications. Long and behold, we started traveling with a couple of pastor groups and we realized that they were missing something. They were missing the how-to, a workbook to be able to go out into their community and engage their community. So that led us to writing our workbook called Watchmen Action, where we equip the church to engage the culture by helping them build advocacy plans around core issues that matters to them and to their community. We always say that everybody that's in church, they're in. Right? We're all in the 4 walls. Now, how do we get out into the real world and we start like engaging with our community? That's one of the things that our workbook does, because we keep saying that we can't be apathetic as the church. We've lost ground. I'm looking at the pastors going, you guys you've abdicated your role, right? So now how do we come back to taking the leadership role? Because once upon a time, the church was the center of the community. And the church got taken out of the center of the community. The government became the center of the community. Now we got to put the church back into the community, and that's what we've been doing with Watchmen Action.
Yeah, 2 other things that aren't on the slides because they haven't been updated. You're amongst the first to know. We are finalizing a deal with Real America's Voice to do a show on the network. And the Watchmen Brief, our podcast, will enter radio syndication after the first of the year in 15 markets. So we've been working behind the scenes, and now it's kind of coming to the front. So we get to share with our family. We consider you now our family. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. So
we were at one of the SAS events and literally saw Steve Bannon, and was like, we need to be on Steve Bannon's show. So I immediately walked up to him. I just stood there. Right? And of course he's going to say, all right, tell me your story. And I'm like, we're Watchmen Action. And he's turned around to his producer and was like, they need to be on tomorrow morning. And we were the first people that he pointed to during the SAS event. That has opened up all the doors. We're just like, Father, just keep opening the doors and we'll just keep walking, doing the things that we need to do. So Father's really equipping us, meaning us, not just us, all of us, to go out there and do what we're capable of doing. And now with Charlie, right? Now it's our responsibility to pick up the baton and do the things that we're all capable of doing. I think we've all gotten to the point where we're like, the government is not our friends, right? They're not doing what we need to have done in our communities. Who better to take care of our communities than us? So let's figure out how we can organize and do that.
Yeah. So, Julianna, you talked a little bit about the genesis, but people ask us why Watchmen Action. Now, there's a funny story behind this, so what you'll see on the screen next will probably make sense to you. It's the rubber chicken dinner story.
So I was sick and tired of going to these events and having that rubber chicken dinner and then leaving and doing nothing. Like, I didn't understand that. I'm like, what's the point of all of us getting together if we don't have a call to action? What we're going to do when we walk out the door? That's the reason why we wrote Watchmen Action, because when you're coming with us and you're sitting down for 4 hours as a group of people, right, you're already working. You're already doing the things that you need to do. It's time for us to come together and say, instead of us just chit-chatting amongst each other, oh, we're all going to gripe about what's going on out there. No, what are we going to do about it? That's what I want to know. So when we're getting together, I want to know that there's an action plan and that we're actually taking the steps to move the agenda forward the way we want to have it moved, because I'm not going to another rubber chicken dinner.
Amen.
Not doing it.
Good night, everybody. No, I'm kidding. That pretty much closes the show, though, right? So would you all agree that words matter?
Yep.
So you're probably asking the question, RC, Julianna, the Great Gaslight, what is gaslighting? We're glad you asked. Thanks for asking. Here's the definition. The practice of psychologically manipulating someone into questioning their own sanity memory, or powers of reasoning.
So don't believe your lying eyes. Don't believe what you're seeing. I mean, literally, we're at the point where everything out there is telling us to not look at what's actually happening. And we can't not see what we're seeing.
Yeah. So interestingly enough, everyone in this room has been gaslit at least once in their life. If you don't believe me, I'd like you to think back to 2020.
Oh.
Ta-da!
Yeah.
Right? But words matter. Definitions matter. Your enemy understands this.
Yep.
We always tell people, the devil knows Scripture better than you do. Don't think that your enemy isn't working and they don't know this and they don't use it. Everybody good so far? If anybody wants to leave, it's still okay. We won't take it personal. So, the Great Gaslight. Your desired reaction from the enemy is inaction. They want you so paralyzed that you can't do anything. Anybody an Alex Newman fan in the room? Okay. Alex is a great friend of ours. So the battle that you're in is kind of like this. There's guns surrounding you. At first you're frustrated and you just say, okay, fine. That is the polycrisis. Have you noticed a couple of things are going on right now?
This issue, that issue, the other issue. We're all like, what's going on here? Can't make heads or tails of what's going on. All of that's intentional.
The polycrisis is a psychological design.
Yep.
This is military weaponry, by the way.
Yep.
It is specifically designed to hit you with so many crises that you can no longer function. Analysis by paralysis. So now you understand the definition of gaslighting, and now you have a better idea of the fight that you're actually in, yes? Okay. So, how does this happen? Well, we created this triangle to help you. Everybody's a believer in the room, right? Praise God. Okay, so let's go through it. There are 4 levels of government. The first one is self-government. The logic is simple. If you govern yourself according to biblical principles and the proper moral compass, you will conduct yourself in that way. Does everybody agree? Okay. Amen. Thank you so much. Amen. So the next level then would be family government. The logic being if you do that for yourself, in turn your family would do the same thing, right? After that is the ecclesia government. That's church government. The logic is that if you and your family operate according to the proper biblical worldview and moral compass, that in turn the church body will do the same thing. Everybody good? You guys will notice at the top, if you can't read that, it says civil government. The reason that it's so small up top is that if the 3 things work the way that they're intended, there's very little need for civil government of any kind because we're all doing what we're supposed to be doing. Does it feel like that triangle is upside down these days? And civil government is kind of going top down? It's part of the gaslighting. They get you so confused and paralyzed that you can't pay attention to the people you've sent to represent you. No offense to anyone in elected office in this room, you know it to be true. Okay? Everybody good? Got it? Now that we've set the foundation, let's talk more about the battle that you're in. Now, some of this may be small, not to worry. We will give you the context around what you're seeing. By the way, that QR code will actually take you to the article that we're talking about on our publications. So back in July of 2023, we wrote a story in an ongoing series on the war against women. The title of this article is Bonus Holes, the full frontal attack on women. Reason being, in the UK, they led you to believe that women were of so little value that their parts were considered bonus holes. Now, I know that may make you feel uncomfortable, and I am sorry. But the truth is the truth. You have to understand the battle that you're in. That's not enough. The Wellcome Trust is a nonprofit in New England. They take money from the NIH. By the way, that's your money. They took millions of dollars for a study. And in that study, the goal was to take wombs out of female cadavers and to put them into men who think they are women with the express goal of having a baby. I told you once you see it, you can't unsee it. I'm so sorry, little ears. This is the battle that you're in. Now, if you feel like you're being told love is love and love wins and all this foolishness, you're being gaslit into just being complicit with this activity. So, let's continue. This study goes on. Now, when you read that article, we've actually linked to the study. If you have a weak stomach, I encourage you not to look at the images. But we did break it down. Here's the ending of that. Basically what they discovered, this was their conclusion after spending millions of dollars of your money on a fallacy and demon evil, that it would be immoral not to offer this to men who think they are women.
Since when does our federal government deem anything moral or immoral? Is it their place? No. But they're gaslighting us and saying that they're going to tell us what's moral and immoral. They're coming into our sector. Remember, the separation of church and state was to protect the church, not the state, right? It's for the church to be able to say, state, you have no say in what I do.
Amen.
Right? So we don't even need to have a 501c3 to be a church. You could just say, I'm a church, and that's it. And guess what? The government can do nothing to you. But they've had us believe that they have a thumb on us. They don't.
Black's Law Dictionary, Volume 4. Did you realize a mandate is not a law? It becomes effective when parties agree either by verbal consent or by commission. Anybody a Bill Federer fan? Right? There's the sin of omission and the sin of commission. Your silence equals consent.
Yep.
That one's for you to take home.
Well, that's why I always say, as watchmen, y'all are watchmen too, right? Ezekiel 33:6 talks about, as the watchman sees a sword coming, right, and we don't warn, the person may die for their iniquity, but their blood is our responsibility. Well, guess what? Now that I tell my brothers and sisters, all the watchmen, I'm like, now you're obligated. You're hearing things from us that we really don't want to have to tell you. We don't want to have to talk about this word called bonus holes. I mean, it's really embarrassing that I'm going to sit up here as a female and tell you that this is what they're talking about, how they're talking about us women, right? But we, the church, need to know what's going on.
Yep, if you can break God's order, you can break everything, including the family, because they want your kids.
That's right.
So they talked a little bit about gender dysphoria. Then the UK gets in on the act, and they say, look, we've actually done this on women, and so we agree it is totally okay to accelerate the ability to do it to men. By the way, just as an aside, do you know which organization said, we believe in this so much, we have 2 teams of 5 people, and we'll be able to do this within 2 years? Would you like to take a guess at who said that? The Cleveland Clinic. Ooh, I know, right? Yeah. Curveball. Hi. Okay. So where does this all lead? Well, you may have seen this online, Ectolife. Now, this is the idea of if you want to have kids, any young people in the room, husband and wife, you want to have kids, no need to do it the natural way. You give your stuff, you give your stuff. We'll throw it in a bucket, and then you can watch the baby grow. So no worries about anything else.
Ladies and gentlemen, they can take the skin cells from 8 people and splice it together, or they could take 1 person and create an embryo. They don't need a man and a woman anymore. They can do it by 1 person.
If they can convince you and gaslight you to believe that the behavior we just shared with you is normal, they can convince you that you can lab grow children. If that looks like the pod from the Matrix, you would be correct. It looks very similar, doesn't it? It's almost like they told you it was coming. So, if they can get you here, right, then they can get you here. Lab-grown human bodies for parts and food, the globalist nightmare you weren't supposed to know about.
And you thought they wanted you to just eat bugs.
Oh. So, scientists from MIT, we were actually just down the street from MIT last weekend, are celebrating this progress. They say fake humans are being created to use for spare parts. Bodyoids. Now, they're not sentient beings, so it's okay. We can grow parts, and you can get organs and stuff like that, and you can eat them too, if we need to. That's fine.
This is what they think of us.
Oh, yeah. So, oh boy. That's a whole separate presentation. There are control mechanisms and systems within the world that govern affairs that most people have no idea about. And if anyone is familiar with the UN agenda and the World Economic Forum agenda, there is something called Project 2100 that goes way deeper than maybe what you understand and ultimately where they want to take you. It's the singularity, but it is going to be a hellscape on earth before they get you there, because they want to gaslight you into capitulation to upload your sentient being into a computer. Yikes.
There's actually a program right now in a jail that if you get busted, let's say you murder someone, they can wipe your brain clean and give you a new download, a new history that you now believe, and within a week you can get out of jail because they wiped your memory clean.
You guys remember the movie Demolition Man?
Yeah.
Ah. More like science fact than science fiction, huh?
Yeah.
All right, so they want to get you to bodyoids, right? Let's continue. WorldCoin. Anybody know who Sam Altman is? Yes. Anybody know what ChatGPT is? Yes. Those two things go together. Okay, Sam Altman was not comfortable enough controlling your mind and the minds of future generations. Instead, he said, you know what would be a great idea? if we gave all the poor people in the world cryptocurrency that they could live on, right? So great, let's do that. Let's go to third world countries and help people. Here's what they said after. Well, the best way to do this is to help create a digital identification of those poor people because they can't get ID. We'll just scan their eye with an orb, and then they can get their cryptocurrency. Ooh, let that sink in for a minute, huh? Sam Altman, WorldCoin is his baby. That's his other baby, besides ChatGPT and trying to control your life. So, once you actually get under the covers of this, because some people said, well, what's wrong with helping poor people? There is nothing wrong with helping poor people. Charity is in the Bible. That does not mean you control and kill them. Oh my God. Okay, sorry. I got my soapbox. So once we got to the root of the root, the real goal here is a potential path to AI-fueled universal basic income. Guys, the goal is to get to AI-funded universal basic income.
What does that mean? Universal basic income is now you have a currency, you have your wallet, there's no actual cash in your hands. You'll be able to spend that money where they want you to spend it within a certain geographical location, right? You'll be able to spend it on things that they want you to spend it on, and at the end of the month they can take it from you. They can control people using this digital currency. It's the reason why RC and I support alternative currencies and we support gold back, because when they flip the switch on us or they take away our fiat currency, how do we do business with each other? Exactly. There was 86 million people in China was like, you're not going to do my eye scan, and 86 million people lost their bank accounts. That just happened this week.
Vietnam,
that's right, sorry.
Vietnam is the test case to get you to capitulate, and they're gaslighting you into thinking it's a good idea for your safety. I'm going to read that second box to you because it's important. It piggybacks on the whole iris thing. World ID, which the company describes as a digital passport,
like China,
to prove its holder is a real human and not an AI bot. To get a World ID, a customer signs up to do an in-person iris scan using the WorldCoin's orb, a silver ball approximately the size of a bowling ball. Once they scan your iris and identify it's you, congratulations on your money. So here's what we said when we wrote this piece. If you do not stop Sam Altman now, while he is in third world countries, this thing will be all over the US within 2 years. We submit to you, in May of this year, WorldCoin launched their flagship store in Union Square in San Francisco. It's my hometown. And that is the mayor of San Francisco with 2 WorldCoin orbs behind him. You guys understand? When they gaslight you, they get you to inaction. Right. And when people are inactive, evil lurks. It creeps. If the church cedes territory,
which it did,
evil moves forward. When we push back, like most of the people in this room, you notice something interesting happens. Evil runs. It's a bully. Go punch a bully in the mouth. Bully runs away. Everybody good so far? All right. So what's coming? Let's talk about it. You guys remember the Big Beautiful Bill? Everybody remember that? Okay. Within the Big Beautiful Bill, there was a request for a moratorium on AI legislation by states for a period of 10 years for the federal government to decide what needed to happen. If that sounds bad to you, it is. On its face, it is a violation of the 10th Amendment, states' rights. But what was going to happen, I'll get to the other one in a second. What was going to happen is guys like Peter Thiel, Palantir, who we said, listen, if you let this guy have an outsized influence on the Trump administration, your technocracy is coming in a red dress instead of a blue dress, and you will take it. Wherever you go, there you are. I'll come back to that. So, this thing was in there because guys like Peter Thiel and David Sachs, who's the AI czar for the White House, they would tell you that competition is for suckers. That building a monopoly and controlling all of this is the way to go. Those are the people who wanted the moratorium in the bill. You see, they want to control you, if you follow. So, Marsha Blackburn stood up in the Senate. This thing actually passed in the House, which is a whole nother can of worms. Oh boy. It gets to the Senate. Ted Cruz is lobbying for it. Bought and paid for. Have a nice day. Marsha Blackburn was initially okay with this. We spoke last night in Lake Wales. Joe Allen. Everybody know who Joe Allen is from the War Room? Tech reporter. Joe Allen was there. It turns out Joe Allen saw that Marcia Blackburn was going to crease on this thing, called it out. She saw it, and she came back in and said, this is not going to get into the bill. So Marcia Blackburn got it killed. So it did not get into the big, beautiful bill, yay. Here's the problem. The following week, Josh Hawley, the senator from Missouri, comes out and says, hey, I just want to let you guys know they're going to try to sneak that thing into the NDAA at the end of September. Now, we've been working on this. It doesn't look like it's going to get through. It doesn't have the votes. But you have to understand, while they have you distracted, they're going to try to sneak one in on you.
Yep.
You guys remember Obamacare? Do you know who wrote it? Big healthcare, big pharma. Who do you think is going to write an AI bill? Thank you. Okay. So, recently...
Yeah, the tech companies.
The tech companies are going to write it. Sorry.
I'm going to write the bill.
Sorry, I thought that one was good. Okay. So fast forward, Trump signs the Genius Act. We call balls and strikes here. President Trump does something good, the administration does something good, we say so. When they do bad stuff, we call them out on it. The Genius Act was a problem because in the very beginning of our first publication, we said the government is going to pick winners and losers in cryptocurrency, and you're not going to be a winner.
Yep.
So you fast forward the Genius Act, what does it do? It establishes winners and losers in cryptocurrency, and it moves you closer to a CBDC.
Central banking digital currency. The problem with crypto of any sort, outside of blockchain that is decentralized, regular crypto is centralized. What does that mean? One person can make a decision and go, click, you're not getting your money. Remember what happened when we were having issues with Russia, and all of a sudden SWIFT turned off Russia's money, and then Russia turned around and said, you know what, forget all of y'all, we're going to make our own gold-backed currency, and that's what Russia did. Russia did that because America turned off its money. Remember when the truckers were in Canada and they were protesting, and they shut off all their money? If they could do that to Russia, if they could do that to the truckers, they could do that to every single one of us.
So, you have to be vigilant, regardless of who represents you,
That's right.
that they are representing your best interests, because if you don't, they will represent their best interests. Everybody good? So, how does this happen? Well, you saw this a minute ago. Everything we've described to you is what happens when we are out of Father's order. This is why biblical worldview is so important. We gave a keynote last night on the state of AI in education. And I submitted to the group that when we spoke in Naples back in May, I told the group of very wealthy and influential conservatives, the reason that you are scared of AI is because the biblical worldview and moral compass is almost non-existent. And I'll say the same thing to you guys I said to them. But you could change all of that tomorrow with your knowledge, your resources, and your relationships. But you have to be willing to do the work, which means that you have to be in Father's order. So, enough of the bad news. What's the solution? This is why Watchmen Action was born.
So as I said before, the reason why we built Watchmen Action is because we understood that it was great that the pastors were having conferences and they were all getting together. But when they left, they didn't have an action plan. It's like, okay, so I'm going to go back to my congregation, then what? Like, how do I get them involved? How do I get them engaged? So there's great people who want to get involved, and there's great tools. How do we bring them together? So we literally built the workbook to say, okay, let's build an advocacy plan. How exactly do you do that? What tools do you need? Who needs to be sitting around the table? So part one is, what is your story and what are you advocating for? What's important to you? Part two is, what's the strategy? Who needs to be sitting around the table? You're going to have to do a SWOT analysis for those of my business people in the room, right? SWOT analysis are really important, right? And then part three is making sure that everybody's on the same page moving forward. Because if you have 5 people that are doing something and one person is at a sink and doesn't do what they need to do, all 5 are now hindered from getting to the goal. So we want to make sure that when we're deploying teams of people to go do the advocacy work, that everybody can work in unison with each other. It's the reason why we wrote the workbook, because we're all capable of working together if we figure out what exactly we want to advocate for and figure out exactly how to advocate for it.
Yeah, when you see this in action, Charlie Kirk's story.
Yep.
In September of 2023, we saw Charlie speak in Phoenix. Now, this is obviously before the 2024 election, but he was super passionate about something. And we actually saw a glimmer of how Watchmen Action would work in a perfect world. He cut the issue down. So he said, we need to win the election, obviously. Everybody's like, yes. He's like, did you know that all we need to do is turn 20 votes per precinct in these precincts in these states, and Donald Trump is the next president of the United States.
That was really shocking. Only 20 people per precinct makes the difference. We had somebody that lost an election by like 700 votes. And it was one of those, one church could have gotten out of the pew and go do and vote. Would have made the difference between a Republican being in there and a Democrat being in there.
So Charlie Kirk tells this story. Yep. People get it. Obviously, we know the result. The story that Julianna's talking about happened in Michigan. So a couple of years ago, the Michigan House of Representatives was +1 Democrat. The story that we heard about that is that the person lost by like 400 votes. And there was a 700-member church in that district that chose inaction. Their inaction changed the balance of power in the Michigan State House. Now, everybody in this room knows what happens when you lose the balance of power, right? If you don't think 20 votes per precinct matters, Charlie Kirk showed us the way. This is why Watchmen Action is so important, because those things share a similarity. The story of them was easy to understand and easy for people to relay. It allows you to get the right people in the right positions to do the work. You don't want your best speakers sitting back at headquarters making sure the trains run on time. You want them in front of legislators telling the story. And you need to be able to measure whether or not you're successful. That is the genesis for Watchmen Action, and that helps us to tell you about the Great Gaslight and then say, here is how you solve that problem when you face it. And we're going to have some time for questions too. So, awesome. Yeah. So we have a couple of asks for you, and then we're going to stop and we'll let you guys ask some questions as long as we have time. So if you are or you know someone in a group that needs help to take action, we want to connect with them. Please see us during or after the event. We're happy to talk to you for as long as necessary to get that done. We want to build more coalitions to help with the movement. The folks at Truth Fest were so kind to ask us to come out from Seminole County to Brevard County to meet all of you. And if there are coalitions you would like to build or groups that we need to talk to, let us know. Mm-hmm. And if you feel so inclined, you can support the Watchmen Action mission, which Nicole back at the table can talk to you more about that. One other thing.
So goldback is another currency. It's actually made of gold, right? So the smallest one, the half goldback, has 1/2000th of an ounce of gold in it. It's worth about $3.35 right now. The big guy's worth about $770. Why are we talking about goldback? Number one, all proceeds support our ministry. But more importantly, number two, when they take away our fiat currency and they're turning around going, you know what, you're going to have your central banking digital currency, you can say no. I'm going to use another means to be able to do trade and barter. There's many different other currencies out there. There's a trade and barter currency, there's alternative currencies, guns, bullets, food, right? We need to have all different types of currencies. We've got people that literally have $500,000 worth of goldbacks in their safe. Because when the fiat currency goes bye-bye, how do we do business with each other? How do we make sure that we're not on the beast system and we can do what we need to do in our communities? We're really urging people, get hyper-local. You need to know who's your nurse, who's cutting the beef, who's got the chicken eggs, right? Who's the mechanic, right? You need to really know who your neighbors are. I'm telling people, you need to knock on the doors of your neighbors and go, we need to organize. We have one friend, he's got a map on his wall with little pins of all the people that are involved, right? So if everything goes to, they know what they need to do. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to be that ready. That's why we talk about alternative currencies. That's why we work with goldback, because it's really important that we have a way of being able to do business with each other.
And guys, with that, we thank you. You can learn more about everything using the QR code.